Thank you. So firstly, thank you for joining the session, guys. So I'll take a minute to help you understand, about me, and then we'll take the, subject from there. Again, thanks for joining. And, this is Shiva. You can simply call me as Shiva. So I'll be your Azure trainer for this 2 months data engineering program. Just to keep it short, I'm not a full-time trainer. Maybe many of you, know it already. So like many of you, again, I'm a working professional. So I have been into IT from last 14 years and then have been into trainings from last 5 years. So throughout this data engineering program, we'll be learning more than 12 different Azure services and few AWS services as well. Shortly, I'll showcase you the services that we are going to cover so that if there are any gaps, with you or that you have in mind, that can be cleared. And these 12 plus services are necessary for anyone to pursue their career on data engineering. What I mean to say, these are like kind of mandatory services one have to go by to work on data engineering subject, especially Azure in this case. So like I've said, I'll give an overview on this, particular services that we cover basically. So like I've said, I carry 14 years of experience and I've specialized in multiple different technologies like SQL Server, SSIS, Power BI, Snowflake, Azure, and AWS. So recently we have, of course, I mean to say when I have specialized in these technologies, it's not with respect to only training, with respect to the skill set that I carry and that we utilize in the organization, in the projects. And of course, I support multiple projects given the experience that I carry. So we have also started with Gen AI in the organization, of course, right? Yeah. So that's also maybe I'll just add a point with respect to that as well shortly. Right. So since, being a working professional, so I will also share the practical and industry focused insights throughout the journey. Right. So with that, I'll start sharing my screen and then I'll walk you through some of the concepts. So guys, I'll allocate or dedicate some time. The last 10 or 15 minutes we'll dedicate for questionnaires. If you have any questions, please make a note of them. I'm happy to address them at the end of the session. Right. Thank you for that. Right, so let me start sharing my screen and then we'll go from there. Right. So what are we going to learn across the sessions, not only today, across the sessions, right? So technically it is Azure Data Engineering because see guys, the majority of the discussions will be on Azure, but as we'll also talk about Fabric, we'll also talk about AWS. So that's why I title the content as Data Engineering with Azure, Fabric, and AWS. So here we'll be learning the modern data architecture and data infrastructure as well. Because we, spend a lot of time on the data. So that's why I said data architecture as well. Right. So what are we going to, talk today? So we'll talk about cloud computing. We'll also talk about on-premise versus the cloud. Very important to understand. And after that, we'll talk about boss, what is Microsoft Azure and what is data and data engineering, right? So data engineering is something which made you join this particular call, right? So we'll talk about what is data, what we do as a data engineering, right? And what data engineering is all about and what is Microsoft Fabric and little about AWS as well. Right. Right. Now let's talk about what is cloud computing. Right? And then we'll talk about the next subject because the first thing one have to understand being on Azure Data Engineering is, boss, what is cloud computing, right? See, we must be knowing at least at the high level what a server is, what a hardware is, and how you can technically store any data. Let's say if you have a file, how you can store it, how you can connect to a different system. Maybe let's say if you have multiple systems in the with the LAN or being shared between. So we can connect to the other systems, see how the connection happens, and how you can copy some file from the other system and then install it on your servers, and how security applications can be installed. let's say if you are able to perform these activities only via internet. I repeat, if you are able to perform these activities or experience them only via internet, it is nothing but the cloud computing, right? But if you are able to perform these activities even without internet, let's say, for example, we all are connected to the same network. Say we are working in one organization. If you are in one organization, the network will be the same, right? So if you are in the same network and assume we have connected through the LAN cable, then to communicate between different systems, we don't need a internet, right? Even without internet also we can perform the activities, right? If you have any context as such, it is considered as on-premise system, right? So just to conclude, the difference between on-premise and in the cloud is the internet. If you are able to perform only via internet, it is cloud. Even without internet, on-premise, right? And there are a few more I have to add. I'll add it in the next slide, right? So now let's try to little deep dive and then understand what is on-premise and what is a cloud and then the difference. And here we'll talk about the difference basically, right? Right. So now let me walk you through a real life example instead of textbook definitions, right? For textbook definitions, you need not to come to me, right? So let's take a real life example or scenario and then I'll walk you through and then I'll help you understand the difference between these two. See here. Say, um, say we all are friends. We know each other, assume it that way. And say we plan to develop a project, right? Say a software application we thought to develop for the next 6 months. And then, we will complete the application and then we'll marketize it and gain some customers out of it and gain some revenue. Assume that way. To start any project, guys, or any application, to start working on any application or a project, what do we need first? We need to have the capital, right? Money is needed, right? Why money is needed? Because we need to have the infrastructure. We need to purchase the servers, purchase the licenses, maybe recruit some people because servers needs to run 24/7. So we need to have someone looking at the servers. If the server goes down, immediately the person have to jump in and then make sure the server is up and running, right? So assume we have taken some amount from the bank, right? So let's say $10,000 from the bank, and say we have spent on the infrastructure and then we are ready to go, right? And assume uh, we have worked on that particular project for the next 6 months, and at the end of 6th month, we have the product in place, right? But when we try to market it out, we got negative feedback. Of course, guys, the story is bad here. And assume we got negative feedback on the product that we have developed. So that means how much is the loss? 6 months of time and $10,000. Even if you resell your hardware at outside, maximum we can recover $1,000 or $2,000. That means straight away $8,000 were gone, right? So that's the case with on-premise. Now let's take the same scenario on the cloud. Okay, boss, again, we know each other and then we have plans to develop a product by working on it for the next 6 months. See, on the cloud, you need not to have any capital. Guys, underline this point. You need not have any capital because cloud works on pay as go. That means you can create the account right away. At this particular second, we can create the account. We can start working on the project. No infra setup, no wait time, nothing of that sort. Create the account, start using it. But you will pay after the month, after 1 month, not right away. Even without single, dollar with us, we can start working, right? And let's take the same case. Okay, next 6 months we have developed. So we worked on the development of the product and assume at the end of the 6th month we have the product. But again, the same story when we try to reach out to the customers or the clients, we got a negative feedback. And assume in this case also the product is a flop. But here, how much we are going to lose? See, across the 6 months, since it works on pay as you go. Pay as you go means we will pay only for the consumption that we do. Let's say if we are using the services, say every day 1 hour, that means for given month, we'll pay only for 30 hours. not for complete 365 days. I mean, 24 hours. You know, we'll pay only for the duration that we consume it. Right? So that's how pay as you go, right? So in this case, even if you work, for the 6 months, the maximum we'll spend is $2,000 or $3,000. So here the loss is about $3,000. In on-premise, it is about $8,000. So there is a lot of cost saving when you are on the cloud. And on top of it, no infra needed, no brainstorming as such. And then you can start working on any project. So additionally, if it is on-premise, let's say if you have to roll out any upgrades to the application, right? See, you take any application, take online banking or so, every application get updates, right? So similarly here also, let's say if you have to roll out any update or upgrade or patches or bug fixes, we need to take the system down. On-premise, taking the system down is mandatory, right? But that's not the case with the cloud. See, the services on the cloud gets updated automatically behind the screens. There is no downtime needed here. But when you close the application and open it back, that time you will see the latest updates attached to the version that you are looking at. So that's how updates happen seamlessly behind the screens on the cloud, but that's not the case with on-premise, right? And also here, so like I've said, the hardware is a little expensive. So let's say the application that you are going to use is not supporting the existing hardware. What choice we have? We have to upgrade. That means purchase a new hardware. And it's a huge capital that we have to raise. But here no. So it comes with the concept of scalability, right? See, automatically the hardware will scale up, will scale down, and then we have the choices to choose between the versions also here. Okay? So the last one in the list is access. See, we all work from home, right? Maybe that could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it might vary from organization to organization, but ultimately there are high chances that many of us are working from home, right? In fact, at the moment, I'm working from home basically, right? So we have hybrid mode in our organization. So we work few days at home, we work few days in office, right? But the point is, while working from home, how we are connecting to the organization servers, right? How we are connecting to organization servers via VPN? Could be Cisco or any other, platform which we use to connect to the servers running at the organization side, right? But VPNs comes with a lot of restrictions, right? It comes with a lot of restrictions, right? So something like, if I have to give a case of the organization that I'm at, see, our organization VPN will work only with India-based IP addresses. It won't work with other country IP addresses. Right? That could be a limitation, that could be a compliance, that could be a security, could be anything, but there are in place. But if you take the same thing on the cloud, you can connect to the data that is on the cloud. See, that's where I name it as remote access from anywhere, any device. You can sit anywhere in the world. You can be in India, you can be in the US, you can be in Singapore, Dubai, whatnot. You sit anywhere in the world, still you will be able to access the data that is on the cloud. Not only with the laptop. In fact, you can use your mobile, you can use your tablet, you can use your desktop, you can use your laptop, and then so on. Right? But of course, based on the device that we use, the manipulations that we can do on the data might be, limited, but still you will be able to access. Let's say if you have some data and if you wanted to see it, in that particular scenario, you can use any of the device that is connected to the internet. Right? So that's a benefit you have. Of course, these are multiple different, I would say, but there will be a lot more. But let's these are the major benefits I would say, or the differences that we have between on-premise, and then the cloud basically. I guess that's the major difference basically. Yeah. Okay. One second. Yeah. And see here, because of the cloud, see, the cloud adoption reduces IT team. See, every organization will have something called IT team, right? Who take cares of the infra. That is what I'm saying. See, this upgrades and updates, infra team generally take care of it, right? And also these hardware upgrades, IT team take care of it. See, the IT team's overhead has been reduced by 30 to 40% on an average. So that time can be spent on focus on innovation. That time can be spent on the innovation rather than spending time on the hardware and then the infra in place. So 30 to 40% on an average, each organization is saving because they move to the cloud. Okay. It's not me saying this, I've just taken it from an article. So it is actually a right number. It is not that I have placed it just like that. No, it's a real number. Okay. So now, okay, boss, now you might have understand the difference between cloud and then the on-premise, right? Because that's the first thing one have to understand before we get on to any other topic, right? Now, let's understand what is Microsoft Azure. And what is Microsoft Azure basically? See, simple answer for that. Microsoft Azure is a public cloud computing platform. It's a cloud computing platform for the public. Who are public here? People like you and me. And people like you and me are public to Microsoft, right? So that means people like us can technically create an account on their services or on their portal and then start using the services. Right? That's what we have discussed earlier also, right? See, initially Microsoft Azure was named as Windows Azure. You know, initially that was how it was, being named, right? And Microsoft Azure supports 200 and plus services. And it supports 200 and plus services. So like, say Data Factory is one service, Databricks is one service. Likewise, they have 200 and plus services, right? Those services are, for various different categories like compute, you will have some services related to that for the storage, analytics, artificial intelligence, networking, security, blah, blah, blah. There are a variety of categories and each category have set of services under them. Right? The aggregated number is 200 and plus Pascal, right? And also they have servers, data centers, I mean to say, across the globe. See, Microsoft Azure have the largest number of data centers, guys, when you compare with its competitors. Largest number of data centers it have. And their services are up to 99.99%. That means up to 99.99%, you won't see any downtime with Microsoft Azure. That's what Microsoft Azure is claiming. I have copied this number from their official website. Again, all these numbers I've copied from official website only because I don't want to give any wrong information here. And that's what Microsoft Azure is claiming. So such a robust infrastructure and then the network and then the services that they are providing. So like I've said, yes, so there's a range of cloud services, that they are, providing to us basically. See, and also using these services, we can run a existing service. Let's say service in the sense the application. Yeah, let me explain what do I mean by that. So let's say if you are working on a project on-premise Azure from last 4 years, right? You're working on a project from last 4 years, and then say now you want to migrate that to the cloud. And say you want to migrate that to the cloud. Yes, Microsoft Azure allows that to you. And so we can technically migrate that. Right? So not only the existing application, let's say, boss, a brand new project is going to start from tomorrow. Can I kickstart that project on Microsoft Azure? The answer is absolutely yes. We can as well migrate an existing application to the cloud, or we can start working on a project from the scratch as well. From the scratch as well, basically. Right? So that's how it goes basically. Right. Let me move to the next one. Now let's talk about uh, the major service for data engineers, right? I'll talk about what is data and data engineering and then the architecture of it shortly. But even before that, let's understand the core, I mean, or the major service for data engineers on Azure is Azure Data Factory. And Azure Data Factory. Okay, boss, what is Azure Data Factory? See, Azure Data Factory is a ETL service. See, in the previous slide, I've told you Azure provides 200 plus services, right? Out of that, Azure Data Factory is one, Databricks is two, Resource Group is three, tags are four. So likewise, there are 200 services. Azure Data Factory has been released as a public preview in the year 2014, and it was general available. That means so people like us can technically start using them from 2015. So that means almost 11 years back or more than 10 years back, Azure has been released. Data Factory has been released. Let me keep it the other way, right? Data Factory has been released in August 2015, right? So today it is the industry leader for ETL and then ELT as well, right? Industry leader, I would say. Yeah. See what we can do with Data Factory. See, with Data Factory, we can perform ETL capabilities. ETL capabilities. So what does this mean? ETL. ETL stands for extract, transform, and then load. Extract, transform, and then load. So what does this mean to us? See, let me help you because this is very core topic for us, which is ETL. And there are multiple services which supports ETL on Azure basically. But one of the core service that we have is Data Factory, right? So let's talk about what is ETL. See, I'll help you understand the ETL in very generic discussions while through a generic discussions, right? See, say you're planning to read a book, a random book. Let's say if you have to start reading a book, what is that you need to do? You need to first go to the place where the book is located, and then you have to pick the book from the rack. The first thing we have to do is to pick the book from the rack. So picking the book from the rack is equal to extract. So that's extract for us. And then, so we have transform, right? So we have transform. So what you do after picking the book? You open the book and read through it, right? What we do, right? So we open the book and then flip through the pages. So that is transform. So that can be considered as transform. Transform means you open the book and flip through the pages while reading the book, of course. So once you are done with reading the book, what you do? You place the book back, right? See, other than that, you have no other choice, no? You can't keep your book forever in your hand. Maybe you'll keep for 1 hour, you'll keep for 2 hours. After that, we have to place it somewhere. Placing the book back either in the same location or in a different location is considered as load. And is nothing but the load, right? So now you got the context, right? Extract, transform, and then load. That means pick the book, open the book and then read it, and then place the book back. And that's how we can understand with the general, scenario basically. Right. Now let's understand with a data related example. Because that's our subject, right? So now let's try to understand how we can understand ETL with the data, right? See guys, for that let's assume we have data in a CSV file. Let's assume this is a CSV, and say you have data in Azure SQL Server, right? Or say you have data in Oracle Server, right? And say if you're asked to extract data from these sources, we can make use of Azure Data Factory, right? ADF comes into picture. Using ADF, we can connect to the CSV file, we can connect to the SQL Server, we can connect to the Oracle, and then we can extract the data, transform the data, and then load it into maybe a one single database. Again, according to the requirement, it might change, yes, but you can technically load it to a database, right? So now the question is, okay, boss, does it only supports SQL Server, or say, does it only supports a CSV file or Oracle? No, guys, that's not the number. See, Azure Data Factory supports 100 plus sources, and 100 plus sources. Your data can be on IBM, can be on Oracle, can be on MySQL, can be on SAP, can be on Snowflake, Salesforce, AWS, Google, right? It supports 100 plus sources. Those are called as characters, right? But also we can visualize how the data is, flowing from one item to the other item or one task to the other task. I'm using the generic words, guys. Technically, the names are different, but I'll come there a little later. But yes, right? We can develop a complex ETL process, and then also we can visualize how the data is being moved from one task to the other task, right? And it is almost serverless. So the system will auto scale here. Another system will auto scale. So we need not to bother about the performance. Performance is taken care by Azure automatically or by default. Right? So that's how, we have to understand data factory. Right. So not only that, ADF also supports triggers, monitoring, and GitHub integration also. More importantly, triggers. Schedule. We can schedule it. We can see, how the processes are running. We can go back and then see the logs as well, and then we can also integrate the GitHub, I mean to say. Right. Now you might have understand, how a ETL works, at least at high level, right? If you observe my discussions there, it's all about data, right? Extract the data, transform the data, load the data. And that's the ETL. ETL means extract the data, transform the data, load the data. It is all about data. If there is no data, there is no data engineering. See, the moment I log into my work, I start working on the data till the moment I log off from my laptop. If there is no data, I might not have a job, right? So since data plays very important role, let's understand, boss, what is data? It is all about data, right? First understand what is data, right? See, what is data is simple, na? So it's an information. What is data? Data is an information. It can be in the form of numbers, maybe our mobile number or bank account number, maybe in the text, maybe a photo or images. Sorry, maybe in the text means could be our names, our organization name, company name, address, subject. Now could be anything, right? Or images, photos, right? Or can be in the form of sound also. See, I'm talking, from the last 30 minutes. That means you are hearing my voice, right? So that's a sound for you basically, or could be a signals as. If you take any IoT devices, or let's take a smartwatch, which we wear, right? Smartwatch, technically, it have many functionalities out of that is, checking our heartbeat. Right? If you take any basic smartwatch, it checks our heartbeat, right? So therefore, it is continuously, sending the signals, basically, right? So and it can be any other IoT device also at the same time, right? Yes, a data is a raw fact representing information. It can be any form of such, right? And data is something that can be recorded, stored, and then processed, right? Stored and processed. That means we can typically capture the data and then we can store it, or capture the information and then store it, right? So that is nothing but the data. But most of the data that we have in the industry is unprocessed data and unstructured data. That's where data engineers like us comes into picture. That's where we comes into picture. But see, and one more point I would like to add on the data. See, guys, you take your time. You can come on tomorrow. You can come on day after tomorrow. Tell me an application that we have in the industry and that generates any data. Sorry, that does not generate any data. Do we have any application in the industry that doesn't generate any data? If you ask me, I'll say no. you take any device that is running on the internet or that is connected to the internet, that have some capability, let's say of camera or a battery, it generates data and it continuously generates that. See, we have been connecting from last 35 minutes. That means we are generating a lot of data, and it happens on the Zoom servers because you all are connected through the Zoom. So that means we are continuously generating data. You take any application, it generates the data. And so that's why I keep on saying data engineer will not vanish. Because see, guys, I've been data engineer from last 14 years. See, the terminology is new to you. See, what we do as a part of data engineering, it is the majority stuff we do is the ETL. Even before Azure also we are doing ETL. Anyway, I'll come to that point. Let's first discuss data engineering, right? See, because the lot of data that is getting generated by any of the application that is connected to the electricity is unprocessed and unstructured. That's where we comes into picture. As a data engineer, we comes into picture. So what we do, we collect that data, we store it and then transform it with services like Azure Data Factory. And that's why I was telling you Data Factory plays very important role for data engineers on Azure, right? So that's where we build various different pipelines and then we process the data through that, right? So a typical life cycle of data engineers, right? We all are data engineers, right? So let's understand. See, we ingest the data. Ingest means extract the data from the system as it is and then store the data, right? See, once you extract it, we store it a place. So you can extract the data as it is using data factory. Here data factory comes into picture, guys, by the way. You can directly ingest the data, or it also have the capability, or it have the predefined transformations as well. We can as well transform the data. What do I mean by transform? I've been using the term transform from last 4-5 minutes, right? What does this mean by transform? See, something like removing an extra column or unnecessary column or adding a brand new column, filter the data where country is equal to US, country is equal to India, country is equal to China, right? Or maybe something like pivot the data, right? Or sort the data, right? So those are all transformations. And then we load the data into the destination. This is where we sit as a data engineers, guys. See, guys, this architecture, actually I named it as lifecycle, but this is a data engineer, sorry, it is a data architecture, right? So till here we come. The moment I transform and then keep the data ready in the system, that's where our next team comes into picture, who are data analysts or maybe data scientists, right? Or business analysts or SQL developers, right? So you might have heard these roles, right? So we have roles like data engineering, but other than that, we also have data analysts, data science, business analysts, SQL developers, right? Those people comes after that, after us, even Gen AI also, right? So earlier someone was asking, where Gen AI sits. See guys, even Gen AI or generative AI comes after data engineering, but not necessarily all the times, but majority of the times. But if you take data analysts, data scientists, yes, they come after us. That means it is us, who work first on the data. What data analyst does, guys? Maybe, people who uses, the tools like Power BI, Tableau, and then so on, right? So those are data analysts. The data scientists, what they do, they consume the data that we keep ready for them, and then they develop the algorithms, a machine learning or deep learning or Gen AI related, stuff they develop. And business analysts or SQL developers, technically query the data for their data analysis, right? So everybody comes later. We comes first, right? So that's, what we do as a part of data engineering is. Of course, this is all theory for you, but we'll be looking at the practical stuff, as and when we progress. Right, that's what here we have. Of course, I've given the architecture there, but see here. Let's say if you have data in the databases or maybe files, we can use Azure Data Factory to ingest the data. So not only that, Azure Data Factory also supports you to process the data. What does it mean by process? Transform the data. Like I've said, you can remove a column, unnecessary columns, create a brand new column, or maybe sort the data, filter the data, pivot it, unpivot it, conditional, split the data based on a condition, many more basic. So that can be done, and then we can store the data. Data storage can be again data lake generation too, or it can be a database also, basic. It can be anything based on the requirement. We can, excuse me, based on the requirement, we can have it. So that's how it goes. And once we see, again, like I've said, this is where our role ends. So till here, it's data engineer's job. And then, data exploration team comes later. Like I've said, Tableau, Power BI, or maybe an Excel, maybe we'll have people who might be querying the data, or we'll have people who might be using the data for their algorithms, right? Everyone comes next. Everyone comes next, right? So that's a, typical architecture that we have, right? And the last slide, which is Microsoft Fabric. So yes, MS Fabric, people also call it as Fabric or MS Fabric. So this is a new entry into the industry, I would say. But of course, it is there from pretty some time. But initially, till I would say last June or August, the items, there we call it as items, the items that we have on Fabric are very limited in nature. But from last June and August, Microsoft have very aggressively started adding the items. But now it have a bunch of items which can be used. Right. So now what is Microsoft Fabric? I call Microsoft Fabric as a unified data platform. Unified. That means data engineers like us can use Fabric. Even data scientists can use it. Data analysts can use it. And maybe business analysts, SQL developers also can use this particular platform. And see, people like us can make use of data factory, data engineering, data warehouse on it. Even data scientists can use it. And even the people who works on Power BI can also use it. Right? So it is possible because it have a concept called one lake. One lake. So this helps them to bring the concept of unified data platform. So we don't need a different platform for data scientists. We don't need a different platform for Power BI developers or for data engineers or business analysts, right? So it's one single platform, uh, which have the combined capability there. Yeah? And also AWS, I'll just talk about it shortly. So yes, before I, move forward, let me, help you understand the services that we are going to cover across the tenure, right? And then, maybe most likely I'll also showcase you how the portal looks like, and then we'll go from there, right? Uh, just one sec. Let me take my notepad. One sec. Okay, right. So yes, we'll be covering bunch of, services across, I would say, Azure and then the AWS as well. But majorly, it is Azure, right? So we will just start with the introduction of Azure. I'm not adding the term Azure, guys, because it's all about in Azure that we are doing here. So we'll just take Azure introduction, and also it is all about basics. And we'll talk about resource group, we'll talk about tags, SQL Server. Of course, tags and resource group are small services, SQL DB and data factory, more importantly, right? Storage account. And we have logic app and key vault, very important for us, and Databricks. So guys, in Databricks, we'll be talking about Spark, PySpark, cluster, Hadoop, and there were many other concepts that we'll be covering. So here we will be using the Spark engine, and we write PySpark on top of it. So that's what we do on Databricks. But of course, there were many topics that we'll be covering using PySpark in the Databricks, right? And we'll also talk about Genie code, which is their AI assistance, and Microsoft Fabric, and cost management. So yes, on the cloud, understanding the cost is also equally important. It is not that how data factory works, how Databricks works, how you can write SQL queries. That is also important, but along with that, understanding and maintaining the cost is also equally important. And so that's also something we'll be covering as part of our syllabus or curriculum. GitHub integration, like I've said earlier, sorry, GitHub, HUB, right? So like I've said earlier, if you see my slide here, it supports GitHub integration, right? So which is very important for us. We'll also talk about, how we can integrate that into, Data Factory, basically. And we'll talk about VS Code, Storage Explorer, and three AWS services, guys, I'll be adding here: IAM, Glue, and then S3. And also, see, I'll also talk about end-to-end project flow, detailed. Let me maximize it. And, guys, these are all the various different services that we'll be covering across our tenure. But of course, there were many, of course, there were few which are small, like resource group and DAX are very, small services in nature. But still, that's, part of our curriculum. And those are mandatory to know, basically. I cannot say, no, we are not going to, okay, touch resource group and DAX, because those are mandatory to, learn and then, understand the stuff, basically, right? Right. Maybe I'll take a few more. It's 9:46, right? Yeah. Let me take, just 2 more minutes of your time to showcase you how the portal looks like. Yeah. But for that, just give me 1 second. And then let me log into the system. I mean, this is the portal. I'm using the generic words. By the way, since it is day number one, I don't want to complicate with a lot of, terminology. So that's why I'm trying to use the generic terms, guys. Don't take me wrong. And by the way, the URL to connect to the Azure portal is portal.azure.com. Right? So while it is loading, see, there are different approaches that we have in creating Azure account. How we can create the Azure account, what are all the approaches that we have, what is the process that we have to follow. Guys, I'll talk all about this as and when we progress. Not today, just you have to wait for, maybe 2 or 3 days. I think it is 3 days. After that, I'll dedicate about 15-20 minutes to help you understand how you can create your account on the portal. But my sincere request here, guys, don't create an account. Don't create your accounts on the portal. I'll let you know when is a good time to create. But if you would have already created, of course, I can't do anything. You can use the way how it is basic. But don't try to create a brand new account until I say it's the right time. But anyway, right? So Stravan is one of my, student from my previous batch. Of course, it's his account. So he have, I've requested him, and then of course, he have given that to me. So let me see if I have any other account. Okay, maybe I have not signed in. Maybe tomorrow I'll show you one another account. But yeah, so this is how an Azure account looks like, guys. This is how you can look like, basically. See, so if you wanted to create data factory, there's a search. Just type in data factory. See, you see the services that are available. So likewise, like I've said, we have 100 plus services. You can see in the left-hand side, resource group is one service, Azure SQL Database is another service, storage account is another one. So likewise, there were many services. But of course, not everything is our services. But yes, we will be covering those 12 different services out of the 200 that we have on Azure basically. And we'll see everything practically only. See, my sessions, guys, is like 90% practical, 10% theory. Out of 10%, today's is also included. Because see, you have to understand what is cloud now. Only then you can experience how it works on the cloud. So likewise, the 10% theory is mandatory. I can't, or no one can, ignore it basically. Not only me, even you can also, you can't, ignore that. Because that's mandatory to understand how things works on the platform. right? So likewise, yes, there are 200 plus services that are available. See, there is all services. When you get there, you will see all the services that are available. Right. Right. So guys, that is all I have to talk. Now let me open for the questions. Maybe you can raise your hand, guys, or maybe you can also use the chat window if you're not in a position to talk. I can see a question from Ashok saying that Python will you teach? Absolutely. This is what I have highlighted here, Ashok. This is for everyone. For those who have the question, are we covering Python? See, uh, we write PySpark. We write Python on the Spark cluster. That's why we call it as PySpark. Yes. In the Databricks, guys, we will be traveling on the PySpark. We have no other choice, but of course it supports other other programming languages also, like it supports Scala, it supports R, and then it supports SQL also. But we will be traveling on PySpark because that's the most popular programming language currently in the industry. Not only at the moment, it is the most popular programming language from many years, right? So that is something we'll be using across Databricks. Across Databricks, we'll be using PySpark.
No, Python will you going to teach from the basics or
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good question. See
because
again.
actually I am from the non-technical background, so can I join this course? Is it suitable for me?
Yeah, let me answer it, as a generic question. So, guys, many of the members in this particular group might have the question. See, guys, I have developed this curriculum in such a way it will help someone to gain knowledge from the beginners level to the intermediate level. That means we'll be starting with what is Azure SQL Server, what is Data Factory, what is storage account, what is Databricks. To that level, from that level, we'll be starting. So, of course, with PySpark, we'll be starting with what is a variable. And that's a basic one. So we are starting with the basic discussions. So you need not to have any PySpark knowledge. If you already have it, it is going to be added advantage. Now you will see how you can make use of the PySpark on the Databricks environment, right? So again, Ashok, to reiterate the answer for your question, yes, we are going to start everything from the basic level. Not only Python, every other service also will talk from the basic. So what is
Okay,
VS
thank you.
Code, how you can install it, how you can open it, how you can use it. But of course, it won't take a lot of time. It won't take, right? Because I can give you a link, you can install it quickly and then you can open it. Hardly it will take about 3-4 minutes. Don't assume like when I say we'll be talking from the basic, we will forever stuck at the basic. No, basic discussions are going to be, it won't take long time. That's where I'm trying to come, right? To what extent we learn PySpark? See, very good question, guys. One more question. I see there were many questions on the PySpark today. I don't know why. See, again, let me reiterate it. We see PySpark and Python are very vast topics, very vast subjects. That's why I keep on, as a trainer, I keep on getting a lot of questions, right? But the PySpark that we are going to cover here is the only PySpark that is needed for the data engineering. See, we can also use PySpark to develop GenAI applications, or maybe let's say a backend application or a front-end application, right? We don't look into that Python or that PySpark. We look at the PySpark which is needed for the data engineering. That's all. We don't go beyond that. And the two up to intermediate level, I will take you guys, right? What are the prerequisite language? How you should be joining it? Of course, I would say, the prerequisite is to have some knowledge on the data, and then you should have the hungry to learn. That's the most important thing I'll say here, basically, because like I've said earlier to the Ashok question, we'll be starting with the basic everywhere. Basic everywhere. Even on the SQL Server also, we will see how we can create a SQL Server, how we can write the queries from that level where we are going to look at. Right, so it should help you basically. But if you need any additional help on top of it, guys, you can always reach out to me. So I'll be able to guide you in which direction you can go on that particular subject. But beyond on what I teach, I mean to say, I'm not saying I'm not going to teach. We are going to cover, that's for sure. But beyond, if you wanted to pursue anything into the advanced stage or so, I'll guide you how to go by this. Yes. Is SQL also covered? Yes, of course it is. SQL is covered. It is on the screen. So guys, this sessions goes for 2 months, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. See, Snowflake, we don't cover Snowflake. See, all we are going to cover is the things on the Azure. For that itself, our time will go. So we will not have time to cover subject outside of Azure. See, on top of it, I am also adding AWS. So if you are expecting beyond that, I can't help. See, firstly, you can't take. See, I have 4 years of experience on Snowflake. We use Snowflake left and right. You ask me anything, I'll be able to answer. But I'll not include that as a subject in our curriculum. It will go forever if I keep on adding the subjects. Of course, we'll
Hey,
talk about,
Shiva.
yeah, JP.
Hey, JP here. Yes, I have a quick question regarding what you was able to explain. So, in the training, are you guys going to go through those Kafka core technologies, or to the Apache Airflow for the orchestration, for the CI/CD features, so on and so forth? And in
Uh,
case if you guys are not gonna cover it, how we can go and being able to be trained in those features.
okay. See, good question. That's where I'm also coming. So along with Snowflake, guys, we have some topics like Kafka, Apache Airflow, and then many other. Of course, orchestration we do using Databricks, and then we do using Data Factory. Orchestration is going to be the main topic for us. But Kafka, Airflow, Snowflake, guys, those subjects I'm not going to cover because those are outside of Azure, those are outside of AWS, right? So like I've said, for these topics itself, we have to spend a lot of time. See, believe me, lot of time we have to spend on this. On top of it, if you are expecting me to add, maybe also CI/CD in which JP has been mentioned. No, see, CI/CD is absolutely a DevOps topic, but of course we use it to some extent. So when we get into the GitHub, I'll touch base about CI/CD little bit. Of course, I won't show you practically, but I'll show you practically what is GitHub, how you can integrate it, how you can push it. But CI/CD, I'll give you theoretical knowledge because that's not our subject. Our subject is this one. This is our core topic. So we have to focus more on this, not on something which might not be in our hands, basically, right? But anyways, right? So yes, just to answer to the JP's question, no, we are not going to cover those topics, JP. Right. So Monica is asking, we create data pipelines? Absolutely, we create data pipelines on Data Factory. That's a technical term. See, what is Data Factory? Data Factory is a ETL service which can be used to create ETL pipelines. So you have the answer on the screen. And of course, we'll be creating multiple different, not one or two, maybe uh, close to 15 different pipelines will be, covering this. Yeah. So PySpark like partition optimization, of course, we'll cover. See, partition is not needed here. I don't know, why people ask for the partition. So those are performance improvement, subject. But see, the reason why we are learning Databricks, the reason why we are learning Data Factory, or Snowflake. Someone was, mentioning Snowflake. See, I told you that I work on those topics. Kafka, I work, but not intensively. But Snowflake, I've been using Snowflake from last 4 years. Believe me, maybe you might be hearing the term Snowflake from 1 year or 2 years. I'm working from last 4 years. See, on these platforms, you need not to bother about performance. Need not to bother. I'll give you one fine example when I get into the subject, but it will need at least 15-20 minutes to help you understand. Don't worry about optimization. Don't worry about partitions. But if you wanted to talk about them, I can talk about them. But those are not worrying points. You have so many other worrying points here. We have so many other things basically. Believe me, partition, optimization, it does automatically. System does it. Skive, I am not sure if you can elaborate on what Skive is. Maybe I can add it. But yes, etc. There were many topics that we are covering which are necessary, for data engineers. There's so many topics why we are bothering about something out of the subject. Yeah. Okay. Anything I'm missing here? Okay, how about Swami, could you please give some overview on this? Yeah, I've answered that. And difference I'll talk. Difference I'll talk, guys. What is Snowflake? I'll give. Maybe if you wanted me to spend at least 5 minutes on it, I can spend. Like I've said, Snowflake we use left and right. You ask me any topic, I'll be able to answer at least to some extent because now they are also into agents. I have not explored agents, but I have some knowledge on it as well. Coco, agent, and then those engines also we have started using it. Yeah. Any other questions? I hope I have answered everyone's questions. Of course, I'm just going by the chat. Thank you guys for posting them on the chat, so it's easy for us also to browse through and then understand. Right. See, guys, if there are no questions, see, tomorrow we are going to see a live demo. Live demo in the sense, a practical scenario. I'll explain you a problem and then see, yeah, first let me finish that. What are we doing? Tomorrow we are going to have a live demo. So wherein I'll take a problem which we have or a scenario. It not necessarily have to be a problem all the times. Let me put it the other way. We'll take a scenario. I'll explain you what the scenario is, and then we'll make use of this Azure portal practically, not theoretically, right? Practically, we will see how we can make use of this Azure portal to answer that particular scenario. Tomorrow is going to be a practical session. We call it as live demo. Please don't miss tomorrow's class. So tomorrow's class also you can walk in, guys, but of course the same Zoom link will not work. Please get the latest Zoom link from me, and then you can join using that basically. So guys, for the pricing details, please this is not the platform to discuss that. Please touch base with your point of contact from whomever you get the Zoom link. Now talk to the person to understand the cost, right? Yeah. Any other guys? Yeah, I think we are at the top of the hour.
Hi, Shiva. I have one. Sorry, I joined late. I'm talking on behalf of my wife. Can I ask you a question before we
Yeah,
end the
Hari, go
call?
ahead. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Hey, my wife, I mean, she doesn't have any experience in Azure Data Engineering or neither in the software industry. But she started learning SQL and basically was preparing for business analyst positions. And then I was suggested by one of my friends there who runs a consultancy. But he was suggesting, why don't you get her trained into Azure Data Engineering? But I know that Azure Data Engineering itself is really complicated, and obviously it's more of experienced persons, get into those kind of roles. But before, I don't want to, overwhelm her with all these trainings. Before we get into data engineering training, I wanted to ask you, are there any prerequisites, like any other trainings that we need to go through before we actually get into data engineering? Because she's completely new to IT, she doesn't have any experience. So basically, she got a work visa,
Yeah.
but then so
Sure. Yeah.
that's my question. Basically, before wasting time and efforts in getting the training from data engineering, what other course are there? Any other prerequisites that you suggest? That way we can go with your company, maybe in other trainings or any other stuff
Yeah.
that you recommend.
Sure. So that's fair. If you see the chat, there are questions related to that. So we have people who are coming from non-tech background, and of course you have joined late. I agree, but still there are in the chat. But of course, see, that's what I've mentioned earlier. See, my curriculum is for the beginners. Is for the beginners means this is for the people who wants to pursue their career on data engineering. And here we will be learning all the topics that are on the screen from the beginners level to the intermediate level. Okay. So the only prerequisite, like I've mentioned earlier, so if you have some knowledge on the data, it is going to be an added advantage. But the major prerequisite here is the hungry to learn. So it is not that you come at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. IST and then just hear me for 1 hour. No, you have to dedicate at least 1 to 2 hours of time based on the background that you come from, or maybe beyond that, to go by the class and then practice by yourself. So if you can allocate additional 2 hours, then there is no prerequisite as such. But if you think you can't allocate, guys, this is for everyone, not only to the person who have raised it, everyone, guys. If you are coming from a different background and if you wanted to pursue on data engineering, it can be data engineering on anything. If you can't allocate enough time on it, it's not going to help you a lot.
Yeah, that I completely agree with you, but just want to make sure for a layman to understand whatever you are telling, even the basics, do we need? So you are saying, is there any other prerequisite that we need to learn, like in the sense, like SQL or tab?
From my
any other-
sessions, the answer is no. From my sessions, the answer is no. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So for your sessions, we don't need to. Okay, even if it is a layman who doesn't know anything about any experience in SQL, Tableau, database, or a data engineer, anything is fine. So they can start fresh and they can start learning from now onwards. Is what
Absolutely.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions, guys? Okay. So if not, so there's a message. Did I miss anything? Same link.
Will you share
So,
this video,
I'll share it
the
across. Yeah,
class recording?
please
Because
touch
even
base
I
with
have.
your.
Okay, I joined late a little. That's
Sure, Ashok. I'll drop it for you. Yeah, sure.
okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. The link is going to be different, like I've mentioned earlier. Please touch base with your point of contact to get the latest link, and then I'll see you all on tomorrow, same time, and then we are going to have a live demo tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you for staying over 6 minutes, and then I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.